We have two items. First item, Aurora Town Square Capital Campaign Progress Update. 4.1.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the first item reporting out of council closed session is to receive the report.
Okay, would someone like to move second that? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Gilliland, comments, questions? Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record vote for the first item of council reporting out of closed session this evening. Councillor Gallo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim is not here yet. Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys is also not here. Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
And Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Second item, 4.2, minor variance appeal, 60 Fairway Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The second item of council reporting out of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
And a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gallo, thank you. Second, Councillor Kim. Comments, questions on this one? Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recorded vote for the second item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Humphreys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
And Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Humphreys. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. So we will now move to Mr. Clerk. Time is 7:03. I will call this general committee meeting to order. Procedural notes. This meeting will be held electronically as per section 19(1) of the town's procedural bylaw number 6228-19 as amended due to the COVID-19 situation. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the additional items? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I was wondering if we could move up 8.6 to the start. We do have a couple delegates. I believe that's in relation to that item.
We can do that when we get to that portion of the agenda, Councillor.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to the agenda? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Community presentations, we have none. Delegations. Mr. Clerk, I guess I haven't pulled up the added item agenda. How many delegations do we have tonight?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have one in-person delegation. It's just come in to the meeting, and then one written delegation, which I will read into the record.
Thank you. So we'll start with the one, and I believe it's Mr. Steve Ames. Mr. Ames, thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes. If you can just state your name, your address, and
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor, members of council, town staff, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Arms, and along with my wife, Rebecca Murdoch, we're the owner occupants of 78 Center Street, the heritage property directly east of the property you're considering and being asked to approve for a fourplex. Before I go any further, let me be crystal clear about one thing. We are not opposing the redevelopment of this property. That needs to happen and has unanimous support of the neighbors and community. What we are opposed to is the design or lack thereof, which doesn't take into account the various suggested heritage styles presented in the 2006 heritage guidelines for this area, as well as the significant increase in density and required variances. Now, I know the variances are a different matter for a different day, but the entire package must be examined in the appropriate context. I'm here tonight to urge you to either vote against the staff report to approve this inappropriate and unsuitable redevelopment of the property, or to encourage the applicant to defer the matter until he actively engages with the community for their input, as the owner of 70 and 72 Center Street did. There needs to be time for the community to work with the applicant in order to arrive at a mutually agreeable position, as well as address the zoning and variance concerns later this week at the Committee of Adjustment. We firmly believe that a compromise is possible. However, it requires the applicant to actively engage with the neighborhood he now claims he'll be moving into. More on that later. The proposed building is inappropriate for the Old Northeast Heritage Quadrant, as it does not reflect the nature nor history of the neighborhood and does nothing to preserve the heritage look and feel of the community. It will detract from the green, well-treed nature of homes in the area and serve as a reference point for other developers who wish to destroy the heritage community of Aurora in the future. As was clearly noted during the Heritage Committee meeting of April 5th this year, there are significant concerns about the design and required variances to the application, which the applicant has repeatedly said he's willing to compromise with on the town, and that, quote, no developer is more cooperative with the town, close quote, than he is. The striking part of this is he's never spoken to any of the neighbors nor consulted and discussed this with us. He saw the property to the west of him, 70 and 72 Center, be redeveloped and believes he can do the same. Well, 70 and 72 are two physical addresses on a larger, wider, deeper lot. The developer of 70 and 72 maintained an appropriate amount of grass and yard, which the developer of 74 cannot do, given the sizable difference in lot size. In addition, this reduction in green space will also impact the drainage of the property, as well as preclude sufficient green space or external amenities. In addition, the town has already been concerned about the increase in traffic on Center Street, and this will only further confound that problem by adding a minimum of 6 to 8 additional cars to the street, as well as no available space for visitor parking, further adding to the safety and congestion issues on Center Street. As was noted, if the basement of the fourplex is later developed as well, that could mean 12 cars in an area that he could barely get 4 to fit into. As I mentioned earlier, I was surprised at the very end of the April 5th Heritage meeting when the applicant, for the first time in this process, stated he was actually going to be moving his family into the fourplex along with his parents, and that there might be 1 rental space. This goes against what has been previously promoted as a forward-thinking rental development. This only raises more questions. You must pardon my skepticism of this last-minute comment to the committee, as I've heard every previous owner of that property since I've lived here say they were building for their family, when in fact it was a redevelopment for rental or flip. If this is truly for his family with perhaps 1 rental space, why can't this go ahead as a single family dwelling with a high-end basement apartment, or a duplex, or a pair of townhouses? Those are all options the community would embrace and can be built to fit well into the look and feel of the neighborhood and the current zoning, rather than what has always been presented as 4 rental units up until that last meeting. As has been noted by many people, including the Heritage Committee, we have 1 chance to get this right. It's not something we can slap up and fix later. Once it's built, it'll stand for decades or more. In this last week, more than 200 people in Aurora have signed a petition opposing this proposal. You all received it yesterday. These are our neighbors, fellow residents, and your constituents. Their voices must be heard and regarded. In closing, I'd like to quote Mayor Marakis himself after the recent fire at the Knowles Butcher Shop. Quote, our past has always been an important part of the Aurora community. Our history plays a big part in who we are as a community. Preserving, protecting, and promoting our heritage is an important part of how we grow as a town, because we need to know where we came from to get where we're going. On behalf of the residents of Aurora's heritage neighborhood, please do not simply rubber stamp the further degradation of our heritage past, but let's work together to preserve our heritage and community and insist on a responsible, appropriate redevelopment of 74 Center Street. Thank you. I'll happily address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Steve, and I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. Very well said, and not just because you quoted me, but would someone, at first I would just ask someone to move and refer to item 8 point, I believe it's 8.6. I don't have my agenda in front of me, 1 sec. Yes, 8.6. Councillor Humphries, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Councillor Humphries, you have your hand up, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Arms, for joining us, for joining us Arms.
Arms.
Arms. How could I get that wrong? I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Very eloquently spoken this evening. I want to thank you very much for coming forward and sharing your perspectives. And I think one of the key things that you mentioned, which I'm hoping tonight will lead to, is that the developer takes an opportunity to step back and work with the residents and come up with something that can work for him and you and everyone involved. And I think one of the things that strikes me is how you said, this is something that we have to get it right once, because it's going to be there for a very long time, as we all know. And I really do appreciate the fact that you first off said you're not opposed for a change for development here. This is something you'd like to see, but let's make it the right type of development for the area for sure. So thank you very much for coming this evening. I was at that HAC meeting. You eloquently spoke about what was said there that evening. We were hoping that more work was going to be done, and there has, but there's lots more work to be done, I believe. So thank you very much for your
you,
comments. It
Councillor
was just a comment to say thank you very much.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat everything that Councillor Humphreys had said, but I do appreciate you coming and voicing your concerns. And obviously you guys are willing to compromise and want to see some sort of development. So it's more or less, putting all the cards on the table and trying to come to a solution that's best fits for the community. And I appreciate all your work and research in this and coming forward and delegating. And I look forward to discussing the item on the floor tonight. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Arms. I do have a question for you, not just a comment, but I just want to confirm that the applicant has not reached out to you or your neighbors or had any conversations in terms of their application.
Disappointing.
Arms?
That's correct, Mr. Gallo.
Councillor.
And that the majority of your concerns lies with use, heritage features, the size of the development, and the minor variances that are being asked. Are those kind of the top issues that you have, the community has?
Mr. Arms.
Through the chair, yes, Mr. Gallo, I would say that those are our major concerns. There's no doubt that this property needs to be developed. In fact, it will benefit the community. What we're looking for is the developer for us to engage with us in a productive manner. When I saw the discussion on YouTube of the heritage meeting, and I see him saying, I'm the most cooperative developer you'll ever find, I'm right here. All of the neighbors are here. And as I mentioned, the developer at 70 and 72 set a very high bar, probably the best developer we've ever dealt with, because he came door to door and he said, I want your input. As we're going through the process, once it was approved, if there's problems with my crew, if there's swearing, if there's dirt, if there's mess, let me know. And I think, Mr. Farani has owned the property for the better part of 4 years. The property really hasn't changed throughout all this process. We all know it needs to be redeveloped, but it can't just be all one-sided. And now that he has said at the last meeting that he wants to move his family and his parents and so on in, he's moving into a neighborhood that he doesn't really want to interact with. So whether he's a developer, and again, I pardon my skepticism, but I've heard that before. If he's moving in, great. Come in as a great neighbor. We want to encourage people to come into the community here. Yes, the community is changing, but that doesn't mean we have to sell our souls in the process. And we would definitely welcome the opportunity to work with him. And as I said, I firmly believe, and the more than 200 people who have reached out to me since signing the petition have said, this can be done. There are ways to do it. We're very smart, creative people in Aurora. We can make this work.
Councillor.
That was it. Thank you. Thank you for your work so far. I hope they do listen and reach out. But those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Arms, for delegating. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Arms, you had mentioned to me in a previous conversation that there were a couple of discrepancies that you discovered the last few days. Have you forwarded your concerns to staff, and can you share with us their response?
Certainly. through the mayor to Mr. Kim, definitely, yes. One of the concerns I have is the existing diagram is not based on the accurate survey of the property. I had to go about and get a new survey of this property done in 2018 because the documents that Mr. Farani received when he purchased the property were inaccurate. One of the concerns that's a major issue to us is the large pine tree that sits to the west of my property on my west, his east border, which sits about 2/3 on my property. We had a 15-point or 15 home survey conducted. It's clearly there. However, on his diagram, suddenly that tree goes away. It is a tree that is incredibly important. In fact, the town is using that tree as one of the models that you're looking at for the new town square. It's beautifully well kept. It's incredibly healthy. And there's no reason that that tree should potentially be sacrificed. As you can see, when we spoke about the property next door, there is a mature tree further into the property near the driveway that was easily preserved by the developer of 70 and 72. So I'm concerned that not only are the drawings not necessarily accurate and appropriate, but they don't actually reflect the property lines, which obviously need to be taken into account before this can go much further. I should mention as well, sorry to council as well, Mr. Farani has copies, both electronic and printed, of the July 2018 survey. So they should have been used.
Thank you. Councillor?
Oh, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thank you for delegating. I'd just like to clarify something. The pine tree is, did you say 3/4 on your property?
Mr. Arms?
Through the mayor, it's approximately 2/3 on my property, Councilor Gardner.
So that means the tree canopy is also on the adjoining property.
Yes, there is some that would be over onto his property over what he is suggesting would be the driveway. Obviously, there is some room for pruning, but there's no need to remove the tree.
Councillor?
Thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Arms. And thank you again for being here and with speaking with me today. Just, I guess, to get a sense from you, if you can, to, I know that you started off by saying that, you support development there, but it needs to be reasonable and compatible, certainly with the neighborhood. And you look forward to an opportunity to work with the owner on a compromise. Would you be able to, I guess, guesstimate whether or not that's a fair sentiment shared by your neighbors as well? Do they also feel confident that, they would be willing to work with the owner to find a fair compromise? Or are they, in some cases, just strictly opposed to development there?
Mr. Arms?
Through the chair to Mr. Thompson, thank you. No, I would say that it's basically a unanimous consent on our street, and certainly in the Center Street, Spruce, Catherine Street areas, that definitely we want to sit down and work with him. I've been fascinated throughout this process, just some of the input from other members of the Aurora community as well, who look to the old heritage area and have certain ideas and certain conceptions, and in some cases misconceptions about it, that, oh, you just don't want redevelopment. Trust me, we want that building redeveloped. That property is not exactly at its optimum for this community. But what I think we're looking at is, and it's a situation where council knows that we have a date of July 16th for the current heritage situation for him. Can we not ask for a deferral while we have consultation? I have about 6 or 7 members of our immediate community, both here on Catherine and on Center Street, who are directly impacted, who would happily sit down with Mr. Farani pretty much right away. And as I said, I think there is reasonable concessions that can be made on both sides. We may not get everything we want. He may not get everything he wants. The town may say we need to make some jiggling here and there to fulfill kind of the future vision, which I think needs to be taken into account. One of the misconceptions that some people had is, well, it's good he's putting in low-end affordable housing. If he does a fourplex, his plan is between $2,000 and $3,000 a month. That's not low-end affordable housing. So I think there is a definite space for us to be able to sit down and say that property needs to be redeveloped. There are things that the community would like. There are things that the town would like to see going forward. And there are things that he may want to see. And there may be 75, 85% where we can come to agreement on that. But until we engage in that, we'll never know. And as I said, we're ready to sit down and talk. I've had fairly open discussions with him several times. There have been, unfortunately, incidents involving that property over the past few years that have required me to engage, where he's had people, we've never really had renters for more than 6 months, and it hasn't always been a good situation. So we want to work together. I wish that we could see the same willingness that Mr. Farani expresses to the Heritage Committee and formally to Mr. Carlson Sang, to us. Let's sit down, let's work this out, and let's find something that works for all of us. And if he truly is moving in there with his family and his parents, he should want that as well, if this is going to be his new neighborhood. And if it isn't, then let's find something that has a rental or a flip or whatever that works for everyone and furthers the progress of Aurora, rather than, oh my gosh, what did we do?
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll all be discussing that when the item comes up shortly.
You, any other comments or questions? Mr. Arms, thank you very much for coming. Don't have a question, but I just did want to, I remember the other two applications, 2015 and in 2016, 2015, I know fought really hard to make sure that the architectural style was in keeping with the what was within the Heritage District Plan. And I know that we heard, exactly as you said, we heard that this was going to be their home, and then they left. And then the next person came in. So we've been through this. I agree with you. And so let's see if we can get this right this time. I thank you very much for coming this evening, and we'll see what council decides.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. I appreciate you hearing us.
Thank you. Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Mr. Clerk, you see we have one written delegation.
To you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The following is the written delegation of Mike Fuller, a resident of the town of Aurora. Beginning the delegation now. Hello, everyone. We are the owner/residents at 73 Catherine Ave, which is directly behind 74 Center Street. We have resided here for over 30 years and have several concerns about the current application for development at 74 Center Street. We have been granted permission to speak virtually at the Committee of Adjustment meeting scheduled for Thursday, July 8th, 2021. I noticed there is a second general committee meeting on Tuesday, during which the application at 74 is scheduled to be approved by the Heritage Committee, in brackets item 6.6. I wholly endorse upgrading this property, as it has been in disrepair for years, but I do have some concerns with this being approved and as it is now designed. It seems odd and unfair to me that this can be approved on Tuesday before our concerns are heard at the Committee of Adjustment on Thursday. I was advised earlier by the town planner that I would receive notice of any application for variance. I was not, but our neighborhood has been very active recently regarding this application, and I was so advised by a neighbor the very day I received notice from the town in the mail. In fact, a petition objecting this application has been signed by over 200 in the last 4 days. The historically designated quadrant in Northeast Aurora has provided an extensive statement of attributes to be considered in future development and modification to homes in the area. We as a neighborhood applaud these recommendations to preserve and maintain the architectural detail, landscapes, as well as the recommendations for future development to harmonize and reflect that character. The design submitted for a double duplex at 74 Center Street fails to do so. It is a cheap and poorly designed building with very little respect to our heritage and the inclusion of design elements outlined in the Heritage Plan. In fact, this double duplex is really a fourplex, which with the design of a basement may in fact become a sixplex. So potentially 6 units on the property, which is zoned for a duplex, could very well challenge the existing infrastructure. Can the existing water and wastewater infrastructure support the increased demand as this responsible use of scarce wastewater allocation in the town and region when there's a desire for intensification along Yonge Street in Wellington? With climate change identified by the town as a major concern, we have concerns with the large roof and parking areas. We are concerned that these increased hard surfaces and increased runoff will impact the existing storm system, adjacent yards, and basements area where many houses regularly have issues with wet basements. Will additional traffic on the street that is currently under observation for traffic flow have a negative impact, or do we really know? The lot is zoned officially for a duplex. Why now a fourplex? A real duplex would be much more acceptable. I understand the need for housing in Aurora, but this area is unique, and I do not believe it is an appropriate location for this development. We have witnessed countless renters in the existing home, none of whom have lived in the house for longer than 6 months. Intensification on Wellington and Yonge Street is one thing, but doing so on Center Street is not appropriate. I emphasize that improving the property is of great benefit to the community, but the current house plan needs serious attention to better meet our expectations for the neighborhood we love and live in. As a community, we as a community would greatly encourage our citizens, our concerns, we as a community would greatly be encouraged if our concerns merit a delay, acknowledging our concerns at both heritage approval and the decision on minor variance at the committee hearing. Yours sincerely, Michael Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to 8.6? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. So no more delegations. We'll move to the consent agenda. We have one item on there. Someone like to move and second to receive for information? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim, any comments or questions on the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority board meeting highlights? No, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Move to number 7, advisory committee meeting minutes. Does anyone want any of those? Anyone have any questions? Or anyone want any one of those items pulled? Otherwise, I'll ask for someone to move to receive all items on number 7. Councillor Gilliland, is that to move it? Just ask a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, just given the fact that we will be speaking at 8.6 and there will be some questions about the heritage permit, I would like to ask Councillor Humphreys about the heritage minutes from the previous meeting she just had in relation to that. Should we discuss that now or should we wait until we get to that item?
You can discuss it under the item when we get to it, and because you're speaking directly to the item.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Someone like to move 7.1 to 7.6? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Thompson. Seeing no other comments or questions, call vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We'll move 8.6 ahead as requested. Council, before I read the recommendations, after hearing the delegate and after speaking to a bunch of residents, and I think we all have, I would recommend that we defer this. The 90-day period has been extended. I've talked to Mr. Waters. It has been extended, so therefore we do have another 90 days. So there is no rush for us to deal with this tonight. I think that we give an opportunity for the applicant to deal with the residents and within the community, so that they can come to an agreement of what should be there and what is appropriate for there, and then we can deal with it when it comes back to us at that time. So that would be my recommendation. If someone would like to move a deferral, I'll take that at this time. Otherwise, I'll read the recommendation. Councillor Gilliland? Seconder? Councillor Humphreys? Any comments or questions on the deferral? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. Can you just confirm the 90 days? Does it require the applicant to agree, and has he agreed?
It's I'll get Mr. Waters, but I've talked to Mr. Waters and he has agreed. So Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. The applicant has agreed to a 90-day extension of the permit.
Councillor Gilliland?
It's a no-brainer to me.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Gilliland, and then Councillor Humphreys, and Councillor Thompson, and everyone. Just, I mean, I know that we're doing a deferral. Normally, we just speak just through there. I'll allow a little latitude, but please don't stray too much. Otherwise, I'll pull you back. Okay, Councillor Gilliland, and if I can just remind everyone, try to refrain from speaking about Committee of Adjustment business, because we're supposed to be at arm's length. So I'll just caution everyone on that. Okay, Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the recommendation. I picked up on that as well in the legal considerations and spoke with planning, and I was happy to learn that they had agreed. Given the fact that we do meet once a month and we potentially might be off in August, I'm assuming we'll have the opportunity to meet should we have to adhere to that 90 days, whether it be a special council meeting to address this, or how is that going to work?
So, and I'll let Mr. Waters up, but the 90 days, September is fine if we have to go.
That'll work?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll work.
Just want to make sure we capture it, and that's fine. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to quickly say that I'm appreciative of the deferral. It's the right thing to do. It gives the applicant and the residents an opportunity to work together. Everyone's heard loud and clear, and I really do believe there'll be efforts on both sides to have something proper and good for everyone put there. So thank you very much for moving that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, and then Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I certainly support the deferral. You know, I was a little challenged with the timelines of us debating it tonight and then committee of adjustment Thursday and then coming back to council next week. So I'm glad to see that it'll be pushed forward. It'll also give the residents and hopefully the applicant a chance to work together along with staff to address many of the concerns. So for those reasons, I'm certainly supportive of the deferral, but as long as you allow it, I'd like to pose a question to Mr. Waters through you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Go ahead, Councillor.
Mr. Waters, you know, I think you've probably heard and seen many of the concerns raised with by the residents, and I'm sure that collectively those can be addressed. But one of the ones that I think I'd like to get your opinion on has to do with the concern about it expanding from a fourplex to, as you heard from the last delegate, a sixplex or so forth, with the owner at the time pursuing some sort of secondary suites in the basement. Is there anything we can do as a condition of approval so that it would prevent them from expanding beyond what council would approve?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess we can ask for an undertaking at the building permit stage that the applicant agrees not to introduce a second unit or second units into the building. We can also require, as a condition of the variance, that similar condition or that undertaking be prepared at the building permit stage to prohibit second units.
Councillor?
Thank you, and hopefully, you know, when this comes back, those questions have been raised with the applicant, and he's provided a response to it, so that way we have all the information prior to making any decisions going forward. And I'm hopeful that you know, a solution will be found that you know, the residents and neighbors in the area can be supportive of. I look forward to seeing it in August or September.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. Why did this come to council before the committee of adjustment?
Mr. Water, I'll admit, but I think that it had to do with the expiration date of July 16th, and I think that the extension just occurred after this was already on the agenda, so that's why this is in front of us. Councillor. Mr. Waters, did you want to confirm that or?
Confirm, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you. And the Heritage Advisory Committee has never seen this revised plan. The revised plan followed all of the recommendations from the Heritage Committee, but they actually never have seen this plan. So is this going to be coming back to the Heritage Committee?
Mr. Waters, can we get this to go back to the Heritage Committee?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will. We'll have to target the September HAC meeting. Otherwise, we're getting close to the 90 days because I believe that would be mid-October that it would expire. So we'd have to provide a sufficient room to report back to the HAC with any changes to the design from a heritage perspective, not a land use perspective, and then get on the agenda for either late September or early October.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it possible just to circulate this this new site plan to the committee anyway?
Mr. Waters, could we just circulate it by email? Yep, I'm seeing a nod.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. We can do that.
Thank you very much.
Is that all, Councillor?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, second time?
I wasn't going to speak, but just on two comments, quick ones. In terms of the Heritage Committee, I did watch the video and they were aware of the changes while they didn't have it in front of them, but I would highly recommend them seeing whatever the residents and the applicants and staff come up with. Otherwise, we'd be going in circles. They should comment on what council is going to end up really seeing. And just the second thing in terms of Councillor Thompson's question on how do we stop those second suites, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Waters, can we register those undertakings on title? Otherwise, they're pretty much useless, other than to that owner could sell it and someone else could just do as they please. They need to be registered on title, and any future owners has to abide by.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask Patricia Desario to comment on that.
Mr. Serio?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Provided that it is a condition of the minor variance application, then yes, we would be able to register that on title.
Councillor?
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Garner, did you want to speak a second time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think I don't believe that the applicant is here this evening or speaking. And I hear the concerns of the community, and I certainly fought for the Heritage District. But I also would like to note that all of the requested changes that, first of all, at the building department, and then with the Heritage Committee, the applicant did everything. He did every one of them. I don't remember such you know, I will use the word cooperative. I don't remember such a cooperative applicant in my time on the Heritage Committee, or that I've heard of since. So I do think we need to, at this point, commend the applicant for doing everything that they were asked to do. And it isn't a requirement to go to the neighborhood. It's in this type of neighborhood especially, it's a nice thing to do. But I think we have to note and congratulate the applicant for following all of the rules. Thank you. A lot of negativity, but I think that needs to be acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson, second time?
Thank you. Just quickly to Councillor Gardner's comment, she is correct. There's nothing that can force the applicant to, work with the community or his neighbors. Hopefully, he will do it voluntarily and willingly. However, I kind of look at this situation no different than public planning. And it's always been, for the most part, I guess, our tendencies that when there is, concerns expressed by a significant portion of the public, we've always push back to the applicant and encourage them to work with the community and their neighbors to address their concerns, and obviously in conjunction with staff. And I think tonight we're just being consistent with what we've typically done at a public planning meeting, and so I'm hopeful they will. You're right, they don't have to, but I would advise them it's in their best interest to do so.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just respond to that for a moment.
Well, you've spoken twice, Councillor.
I know, but there's been a lot of negativity about this, and I think it has to be acknowledged that the applicant has done everything they've asked, and they should get credit for that.
Fair enough. And I appreciate that, Councillor. So before I call the vote, I'll just say that, and I think that we'll all give them credit if they work with the residents and come up to a compromise and solution to what fits within the community. I think we'll all say what a wonderful job that they've done. I think that ultimately that's what we're looking for. I mean, with the Heritage District Plan, we've been very strong on that district as far as what's allowed, what's not allowed. You heard some of the residents talking about parking issues. I don't think anyone in that district would want a parking lot in their neighborhood. And so, I think that we need to continue to work really hard to make sure that the district plan is what it was meant to be, and it continues to evolve in that way. And so, I hope that the applicant has heard us loud and clear, heard from the residents, and we'll sit down with them and we'll work with them. And when this comes back, hopefully we have a very favorable outcome that is pleasing for the residents, for the applicant, and it's something that fits within our Heritage District that we can all be proud to see as it evolves. So, Councillor Humphries, did you want to finish up before I call a vote? I see.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, and I wasn't going to say anything, but just really briefly, Councillor Gartner's correct. He did make the changes that Hack had requested, which was really great. But and I do think that should be commended, absolutely. And I commend the applicant for moving this out to continue to work with the residents, and he wants to work further. So I think this is going to yet become even more of a welcome development altogether. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can I just get that up on the screen just to make sure before I call the vote? It's to defer it to the next GC, I believe. Is that correct?
It is the next GC, and I've been told that council also needs to consent to the 90-day extension, so that's
Okay.
the first clause.
Okay. So we can get that on the screen for everyone. Oh, there it is. The council consents to a 90-day extension of HPA 2020-04, and 2, that the report number PDS 21-084 be deferred to the next general committee meeting. Is everyone good with that? Councillor Humphreys? Councillor Gilliland?
Well, technically the next general committee meeting, are you saying after 90 days? Because that wouldn't.
No, it's
Because
next general committee meeting from today, which would be either August or September.
Okay. All right.
That's why it's the next one, because we don't know whether we have an August or not. So it's the next GC meeting.
We don't have another GC in July, just one?
Nope, just one, Councillor.
Oh, all right. Then that looks great.
Perfect. Call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you, everyone. We'll move back now to 8.1, Residential Waste Bag Tag Program. The recommendation is that report number OPS 21-010 be received. 2, that the implementation of a user-paid bag tag program for the disposal of additional residential waste be approved to commence on January 1st, 2022. 3, that the implementation of a bag tag program for a single-family dwelling and secondary dwelling units to allow 3 bags without tags and up to 3 additional bags with tags, maximum of a 6-bag total at a cost of $5 per tag, be approved. 4, that a bylaw to amend bylaw number 5590-14, being the waste collection bylaw, be enacted prior to January 1st, 2022. And 5, that bylaw number 6293-20, being the fees and charges bylaw, be amended to include the new bag tag fee to be enacted at a future council meeting. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Kim. Comments, questions on this one? I'm not seeing it. Oh, Councillor Gilliland and then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Downey, just to help me identify when you have secondary suites and you have the diamond place card or whatnot, if you can just kind of expand like how that identifier would work. I think it's a great idea because there are homes that, you know, do have secondary suites that are legal and need to have that ability to put more bags out. But could you just clarify how that would work?
Certainly. Through you, and good evening. The diamond is a way of identifying that unit as a multi-residential unit, and it's Newmarket has actually got that program. That's where we got the idea. We also have a program in Aurora. However, many of the units that it would involve have been grandfathered, and so we would have to step up some. I don't want to use the enforcement, but trying to get residents to identify the secondary dwelling units by putting an A or a B on their addresses. So it could be 123A Maple and 123B Maple Avenue or something along those lines. As long as there's some indication on the address that it's a multi-residential, that assists our garbage collectors in identifying those particular units from those that are not registered secondary dwelling units.
Councillor?
Thank you for the clarity. I appreciate that. As far as the additional tags for $5, I understand the logic, discussing, you know, the administrative cost, and then also comparing it to the actual cost and metrics of the garbage itself and kind of came up with a break-even kind of cost-effective way for that price point. I guess my question is with the 6-bag maximum, and I understand that you don't want people on a regular basis maybe putting a whole bunch of garbage, but I really think about, when people are moving, at the last minute, especially at the 11th hour, and they're loading the truck and everybody's running around. Often people have a lot more than 6 garbage bags at the end of the curb. Maybe they'll have some boxes saying free. And I'm just, I just don't know if people are gonna, at the 11th hour, oh, I have no tags, but they hightailed it and now they're out of town. And I kind of want to know, $5 happens to be higher than, say, a lot of municipalities out there from the chart that you had given. So would it be fair for people who are moving that they give them the option for the circumstance, or have some sort of circumstance if they are moving, to allow them that option to spend that extra $5 on those bags? Otherwise, it's just as much as loading it into a truck and going to the dump because they weigh you there. But most people don't have a truck to load it on to go to the dump to put all that garbage in. So I just kind of want to know what are we going to do in those situations when somebody, say, does move and they have an exceeded 6-bag limit?
Mr. Downey, I'd just say add it to their tax roll, but go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this actually happens now, even without a tag system. And quite often people will call and say, we have an extraordinary circumstance, we're moving or whatever, and we're going to be putting out more garbage than we do normally. And so we make some accommodations for that. So that is something that we can do. One of the advantages of going to January 1st is we can start with our public campaign identifying some of the nuances with related to that. So if you're moving and you need more tags, that's something that's available to you. We just want to make sure that it's not an ongoing, every single 2 weeks we see 10 bags out in front of the house. So that's why we wanted to limit it to at least 6. But knowing that on occasion, and moving is a great example, there may be more than that, and all it takes is a phone call, and we can certainly make those accommodations.
Councilor?
Thank you. And when you say making those accommodations, I really just want to avoid, say, somebody saying they did call and then they move, but yet it wasn't picked up, and then the new homeowners move in and then they're faced with this problem. So I'm just kind of want to have some reassurance from you that, we won't run into this problem. I don't know if it's like a different color tag, here's an exception, you're moving, you come in, you get different color, how's that communication happen between the garbage company picking up and the town of Aurora? Like, how is that communication going to work?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it starts with a call to GFL. So what you're looking, so generally if there's a call to GFL, it can be easily coordinated. We're talking about situations where people aren't really interested in adhering to the rules and just simply want to, put down the garbage and get out of town. So, we have illegal dumping happening on multiple occasions. And so we simply deal with that either through our own forces or through GFL. But I'm reluctant to talk about the exceptions because that is the exception. Most people adhere to the rules. They just want to know clearly what steps do they need to take in order to adhere to those rules. And it starts with a phone call to GFL and then to us, and that can be easily addressed.
Councilor?
Okay, that's perfect. I just really want to reiterate that. I do like this option as the one that's being presented as moving forward versus the recommendations. I like the idea of only adding a tag when it's extra versus having to put a tag or creating garbage to put on garbage. So having to create a tag for every single bag, which seemed like an onerous thing to do. Just based on our history, obviously a lot of people are already adhering to the 3-bag for the most part. This is just kind of solidifying it that much more to encourage people to be a little bit more aware and cognizant and recycle more and, just be a little bit more aware of that. And this is our way of stepping forward and being a little bit more environmentally conscious as well. And that education program, I think, will really help within the residents of what they can do to kind of help address that. And just for clarity, it's bag/container for the limit, correct?
Mr. Downey?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, just to follow up a little bit more on the cost of the bag tags. As indicated in the report, most of the municipalities are costing out their bag tags at $2 or $3. You've got East Gwillimbury at $2 a bag. King's selling 5 tags for $10, so essentially $2 a bag. The Newmarket's 5 for $15, so 3. And Wisher Stouffville's $2 as well. And you've indicated that, you know, for us to run this program, it's going to need to be $5 a tag based on the weight, which is $1.50 for the average bag. And then you've pegged the administrative costs at $3.50. And so I guess what I want to understand is that if we're able to break it down to a per bag piece, we must have a total for what the administrative cost is to this program and how many tags we estimate to be able to give out. So what is the total administrative cost to run a bag tag program?
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't give you the total cost right now, so we had to come up with a number. As you know, when we brought forward the 3-bag limit policy or enforcement of the 3-bag limit policy, we didn't attach a bag tag system. We believe that Aurora has a generous garbage bag system right now. We have the highest number, you can put the highest number of garbage bags out in York region in Aurora. We have the highest per capita garbage of any municipality in the N6. This is one area we don't want to be number 1 in, but we are. So we were looking for a system to help reduce that, and we believe the 3-bag limit has been extremely successful in reducing the amount of garbage, and the charts and the metrics actually show that. You'll see that there's a jump throughout the N6 in garbage uptake. All municipalities suffered through that because many of them disbanded with a tag system. Now that the tag systems are back and we've implemented 3-bag, you'll see some of those numbers going down. We have no problem revisiting the price of these tags in the future, but what we're trying to do is discourage people as much as we possibly can from putting out additional garbage. As I say, we're already number 1. Let's try to move off of that and discourage that as much as possible. So we are proposing $5 in the first year. If we find that there's tremendous pushback or the council wants us to reconsider it, we approve a fees bylaw every year and we can look at reducing that. I will also have better numbers for you because we've never administered a bag tag system yet. We aren't even sure how we're going to sell them yet. And that's one of the reasons that we pushed this to January 1st is that are we going to sell them through Access Aurora? Are we going to sell them through GFL? Are we going to sell them at our community centers and town hall? We're not quite sure. So we're going to sell them online. There's a multiple different ways of being able to obtain these tags. And so that will also add to the administration costs, which, as I say, we don't know right yet because we haven't got a bag tag system. So this is our best guess at this point, but we have no problem revisiting the costs on an ongoing basis.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess that's where I was kind of leading to. It just, when I saw the costs compared to the other municipalities, it just felt more like $5 was chosen as a deterrent from people purchasing additional bags than really a justification of the true cost of the program. And, you know, the fact that we don't know what it is right now, I mean, based on what you've just provided, you know, I understand that perhaps we're overinflating the price for those reasons, you know, but I guess in some ways, you know, I think if we're going to provide a service, it should be at a fair and reasonable price. If we're going to do it, then do it right. I'm not necessarily comfortable with picking $5 as a deterrent because we don't want to do bag tags. If we're going to choose it, then let's do it at a reasonable rate. You know, I certainly don't think that the town should lose money on it, but I'd like to hear more perhaps by the time council runs around next week about how we're really going to identify and track the costs of this administrative program so that when it does come up for review, we'll have a true indication of what it is so we can have a fair price applied to the bag tags. Is that possible, Mr. Downey?
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's possible. So what a lot of municipalities do, and because I've been in discussion with my N6 partners, is that they calculate how much money they've collected with their bag tag system. They've also identified how that translates into costs to GFL and any administrative costs, and then it's just simply a math equation. So yeah, that's easily done. I just can't give you what those numbers are at that point. I know in talking to Georgina, they collected more in bag tags than they've ever done before, and so it was actually a revenue generator for them. But that isn't what we're looking for. We're not looking to generate revenue. We're looking at covering costs, but I cannot give you what those are right now. And I also don't know how much of an uptake there's going to be. We have received very, very few phone calls of people wanting to put in more garbage. We've actually seen the opposite. People have been extremely positive and responsive, and I thank the community for that, in reducing the amount of garbage they put out. So we feel it's been a very successful program, and I don't know how many tags we're actually going to be selling, quite frankly.
Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Downey. And you know, I'm glad to hear that it's something that we will be able to track, so at least we can have a more accurate understanding of what the cost is and what the price should be going forward once the program is established and we start tracking it. And I completely agree with you. You know, the report speaks highly of the fact that, you know, we are trending in the right direction with respect to the reduction in waste and what we have been doing over the years to do so. You know, we have a green commitment from a waste perspective strategy. And, you know, I think we should continue to look at what our garbage limits are with the ultimate goal of, you know, continuing to reduce wherever possible. And, you know, there are going to be exceptions to the rule, and the bag tag limit allows for those few exceptions. But I would say to continue the course of what we've put in place over the last number of years and ways to get people to recycle more and waste less. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment quickly on the pricing. You know, I'd be fine with $5, and I think as much as this is a service, it's, you know, I see this as also there has to be a balance between service and deterrent as well. But I suspect, as Mr. Downey has indicated, there's not going to be a huge uptake on this. I think it's only a small fraction of the municipality that will eventually need the extra baggage, but it's always nice to have that option. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, you know, just in our previous communication, you'd indicated that the reason why the service won't start until January 1st was because, you know, the bylaws need to be revised, tags designed and purchased, and the method of sale explored, which you just previously mentioned. And all these things can occur within, you know, a more reasonable time frame. I just want to inquire, you know, I'm thinking about November 1st, you know, prior to Christmas would be a nice date to have this enacted. Is there any possibility that you can fast track this to November? That's still 4 months away.
Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kim, for bringing those inaccuracies as far as the dates go in the report, and I do apologize for that. It was a typo. But so this is a coordinated approach. So this is going to take efforts across the corporation. The bylaws need to be revised, but through our solicitor's office. Depending on how we sell the tags, that might include Access Aurora. So then now we're involving corporate services. If we also then have to look at changing the bylaw for the fees, and that involves the finance department. So when I'm speaking about a date, I'm speaking on behalf of all of those departments and their ability to respond as quickly as possible. So when we were drafting the report, we were we were somewhat united in the fact that January 1st seemed like a reasonable date. I can certainly reach out to my corporate partners and ask, is there any way of accelerating this, and find out what kind of responses I get. But as I say, it's even a simple way of selling the tags is going to be something that we're going to have to figure out. And I don't want to promise that I can move the date up from January 1st without that conversation.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Downey. And yeah, that's fine. If January 1st is the agreed upon date and that's a more reasonable timeframe, that's fine. Internally, if you could look towards November 1st or December 1st date, that would be great as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. Just quickly to Mr. Downey, through you. Does GFL get paid by the tonnage that they collect? I realize that might be, well, thank you for the answer. I'll link it to the tags.
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, they do. So the 3-bag limit wasn't in their best interest. They made more money the more bags they picked up. So this is why it's a savings to us, and we've identified those savings to the corporation.
And that leads me to my question on, we trust they're only going to pick up the 3 bags plus whatever tags, if there are any more. Are there any systems in place or that you're thinking of putting in place just to verify that when they go around, they're picking up 3 bags and not more, and any more need to have tags on them?
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, all the vehicles are video cameraed, so we actually see everything. So we can request a video surveillance anytime we want on any particular route at any particular time. So that is available to us. They are very supportive of our tag system. The one criticism that they do have right now are the secondary dwelling units, because we do not have an identification for those secondary dwelling units. And they actually have a chart of the 200 or 393 secondary dwelling units in town. And they have to look at that chart, and they would love to have, that's one of the reasons we're looking at either an address change or a plaque on the building to identify that. That would be of great assistance to them. So it's a partnership that we meet on a regular basis. But yes, we can always check the videotape.
Councillor?
Thank you. And it's just a comment, because I still don't really understand and somewhat perplexed as to why Aurora is just in terms of curbside garbage generation compared to an N6, why we're so far off the chart. But I just don't know why Aurora is so special in that regard. Just a comment.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, second time. Oh wait. Go to Councillor Gardner, has her hand up first time. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just some clarification, please, on the secondary dwelling units. So the ones that were existing before we put in our secondary dwelling unit policy, those are grandfathered, so they don't have to register. Is that correct?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, that's not correct. No, they need to register. The issue is whether or not they need to implement an address change. And because the address change is something that is now required, but the majority of the secondary dwelling units are grandfathered, and we cannot enforce it. So that's why we need to come up with a different way of identifying those buildings.
Councillor?
So the secondary dwelling units that you're talking about, they have to register with the town?
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we have registered secondary dwelling units, and the majority of them we are fully aware of. In fact, the list of secondary dwelling units we got from our building department. So everyone is fully aware of them, and they're legally registered. The issue is how they are identified. So that if you're driving a garbage truck, you want to know when you come up to that house whether or not there's a secondary dwelling unit there, and you have no idea because there's nothing identifying in that building that tells you there's a secondary dwelling unit. And you get to the home and there's 5 garbage bags out there. Do I pick them up or do I leave 2 behind?
Counselor?
Thank you. Sorry to belabor this. Is Ms. Van Leeuwen online?
Yeah. Ms. Van Leeuwen? What's the question, Counselor?
My understanding is that these units, that these landlords did not have to register their secondary dwelling units. And in fact, a lot of them are not registered. Am I mistaken on that one as well?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So are you referring to secondary dwelling units that existed prior to us implementing the bylaw? We
Yes.
did do a reconciliation with our fire department at that time. So we combined existing secondary dwelling units with new secondary dwelling units. So they are on the list, on the registry.
Counselor?
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds like a tough one, Mr. Downey, but of course there'll possibly be twice the amount of garbage that needs to be picked up. So I wish you luck in solving this.
Thank you. Counselor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. Just a quick comment, follow up to what Councillor Kim was suggesting with the earlier date. Personally, I like the idea of January 1, just because it's a fresh start, it's a fresh year. It'll be easy for the residents to identify the beginning of something new. Something implementing December 1st, it's a busy time with a lot of different holidays and face, people running around, and who knows what, where this pandemic will be. Just could add a little added stress that, I certainly want to incur on residents. I like the Jan 1. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. I think it'll be easy to launch educationally. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Kim, do you have your hand up for a second time, or is it just, did I forget to take it off there? Okay, thank you. All right, Council. I call the vote. See no other questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, Council. 8.2. 2051 growth forecast and service allocation updates. 1, the report number PDS 21-086 be received. 2, the council endorsed the town of Aurora's 2051 growth forecast of 84,900 persons and 41,000 jobs assigned by York Region for the inclusion in the Region of York official plan. 3, that a copy of report number PDS 21-086 and council resolution be forwarded to the York Regional Clerk. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Kim, comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8.3, traffic calming measures with one-way section of Center Street supplementary report. The recommendation is 1, that report number PDS 21-057 be received. 2, that council approve the installation of speed cushions for the portion of Center Street between Spruce Street and Wells Street. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Humphreys, seconder. Councillor Gardner, thank you. Comments, Councillor Humphreys.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much. I know that we had hoped for a solid speed hump in this area, and the fire department spoke up and still pushed having the 1 speed cushions. I have left a message with fire prevention. They were not there last week and tried saying today, and I didn't hear back. I'd like to understand if they, I really just want their perspective. Again, this is not a main artery. It's a one-way, it's a small section. I just need to understand, I know that they have a blanket request for this, that is just their policy. But sometimes you've got to take a look and dig a little deeper. So to you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if staff have any understanding as to, was it just a blanket? We just don't support that. And this is the normal standard. And if we had an opportunity to have a two-way, more of a dialogue around this, but I'm still thought I'd reach out and just ask them for more information so that when we do pass this or moving forward in the next council meeting, I'd just like to understand that a bit more. That's all.
Say,
Staff has heard.
I'm going to ask you because I know you had conversation with fire.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could defer to Mr. Waters, I believe his staff were the ones in touch with the office.
I appreciate it. You got back to me, so that's why I went right to you, Mr. Waters. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did reach out to the Central York Fire. They have three concerns. The one is impacting response times. Second is causing damage to their trucks. And third is potentially causing injuries to the firefighters in the trucks by going over the humps.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that's the typical response. I hear you. That's not. I'm not surprised. And that's a standard. I believe it's in their master plan. It's what typically is the response. But I'd really just, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'm still going to dig a little deeper to ask them. Have you looked at this one way? What it really is, because the fire trucks don't go along there unless they purposely need to go onto Center Street, and there's speed cushions all the way up until this one little section where we're brought to prevent people from going the wrong way on a one-way street. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that, but I hope to have some answers before the last council meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Just some quick comments. I know I was not in support of the traffic calming speed hump, especially if it was going to hinder the response time, and certainly that has proven what Central York Fire has reported on. I appreciate Councillor Humphreys trying to find a solution to stop these cars from going the wrong way on the street, and we need to really think about what is it we're trying to solve, and that's going the wrong way on the street. And I certainly wouldn't want to be creating another problem by kind of trying to band-aid a solution that still may not work. There's so many other traffic calming measures in this area, and a one-way street, and adding another traffic calming hump is just going to add more to that delay time. So if I were to look at that small spot, yeah, it is very small, but I think even more so is a reason why not to hinder the performance and response time that the residents deserve to have, that with the quickness of an emergency, especially if it's one way, one side, and then speed humps all around the others. I'm sure there's a blanket for our master plans and with these speed humps, but they're in there for reasons they probably feel strongly about. As far as a speed hump with a line down the middle, I think I already said that I feel like it won't deter people from going down one-way street. Finally, through some discussions with people on Center Street, I happened to have some conversations just because I was talking about the 74 and asked them about their opinion about this speed cushion. And in fact, with the few people that I did speak to, agreed that it wouldn't stop the actual traffic from going the wrong way. So the end all is I'm kind of circling up saying, is this really going to solve the problem that we're trying to create here? And are we creating another problem by trying to do so? So in my opinion right now, I'm not in support of installing this speed hump. So I'll let my council members speak around the table, but I would just receive this report at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to I guess, Mr. Waters, just while the report infers it doesn't come out right out and say that the Central York Favor is in favor of the speed cushions. It does certainly say that they are opposed to the continuous speed hump and speaks to the town's practice of speed cushions. But I just simply want to, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Waters, confirm that they would be supportive of the speed cushions.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. The lower speed cushions with the that are separated in the middle. We have a space in the middle for the truck to go through.
Thank you. Subject to any future discoveries by Councillor Humphreys, I'll be supportive of the motion in front of us.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. Just a comment in response to what Councillor Thompson was suggesting. If supporting this motion to install speed cushions, are you suggesting that, you know, the line in the middle is what you're supporting, or are you supporting installing the speed cushions?
Councillor, I'm not going to allow a debate between councillors.
No, I'm trying to understand what he's supporting, not supporting, because it's two different motions.
No, he spoke. I'm not going to enter in a debate. This is not time to debate between councillors.
I'm not trying to debate. I'm certainly just trying to understand what motion he was supporting. It wasn't clear to me if he's supporting the one with the line down the middle or all the way across.
My understanding is he's supportive of the recommendation that Councillor Humphreys has moved and Councillor Gardner has seconded.
So all the way across. Okay. Okay, so all the way across. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So personally, myself, I'm still a like mind that I don't support the speed cushion all the way across due to the response time, and I would rather amend the motion to be received.
Someone like to second that? Seeing no seconder, Councillor.
That's fine. I tried.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, did you want to speak? I see your hand up.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted, also, I was just looking for clarification. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions before I call the vote? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 8.4, Henderson Drive Pedestrian Crossing Treatment Assessment. The recommendation is 1, that report number PDS 21-081 be received. 2, that the existing pedestrian crossover installed on the west approach of Henderson Drive at the intersection of Tamarack Trail / Lee Gate be retrofitted to further enhance safety for pedestrian and vulnerable road users. 3, that the associated cost to retrofit the existing pedestrian crossover identified in recommendation number 2 be funded from capital project number 34518, pedestrian crossings as per the 2014 development charges study. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland. Any comments or questions? Councillor Humphreys, have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I appreciate this very much, staff coming forward with this recommendation. Since it was implemented, I want to say, I guess it was late last year, early this year, we were having these types of concerns by residents that live in the area, see what happens there on a daily basis. And I know that staff was hoping that residents and people that go by there would get used to this type of, sort of crossing measure. But I'm glad that they're going to enhance it. It looks like it's something we really need to do for safety's sake. And I appreciate this moving forward. So thank you very much to staff to come up quickly with an answer to that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really happy that this came to council so quickly. It was an absolute issue with safety by a number of different residents, completely unrelated from one another. So you could definitely identify. I just want to confirm what the actual changes are. So I understand there's going to be additional signage and cutting the trees back, but I just want to understand, so the public understands that there will be some signs that will have flashing lights to indicate that somebody is crossing, because currently right now we don't have that.
Is that going to be for, is Anka here? Anka, is this for you?
I guess so. Good
Okay,
evening.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The changes that we recommend to implement refer to the overhead mounted pedestrian crossover signs. So we'll have mounted arms on the existing poles, and on these mounted arms we'll have a pedestrian crossover sign. And on the same arm, we are going to have double-sided rectangular flashing lights. Those mounted arms will be on each pole, each side of the street, extending across the pavement. So they will be a lot more visible that the rapid flashing signs that are now mounted on the poles. And residents are concerned that what is existing now is not well seen by the motorist. With the mounted arms on the existing poles, the crossing, it will be a lot better seen by the vehicles and motorists.
Councilor?
Perfect. That's the clarity I was looking for. How soon can we get operations out there to trim some of the trees back? Because I do understand that there's quite a bit of vegetation there that is also hindering some of that. How soon?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've already contacted operations parks, and we hope by the end of the week the vegetation will be trimmed. Parks, I know our traffic analysts talked to parks today, and it will be done in the few coming days, hopefully by the end of the week.
Councilor?
Thank you. And I sense a lot of support from council, and this will pass. How quickly could we get these additional lights and signs up, especially while the weather is nice? How quickly can we get this done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we contacted the Guild Electric, who installed the crossing and the electrical part of the crossing, and we worked with Guild Electric with this proposal. So we hope in the next few weeks we'll have them out there retrofitting this, provided they can accommodate this, but we will try to do it as soon as possible.
Councilor?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, this is my area. I know it very well. Residents have been complaining about Henderson for a long time. It's straight away the car speed. There's nothing to stop them. There's no stop signs. There's nothing. And that signal that it's not really a traffic signal. You just, it is in that pedestrians can push a button and then it activates. Other than that, it does nothing to slow the traffic or make it safer. When that was approved by council, that was before me, that was in 2003, I believe. It was put up there as, because there was a safety issue on Henderson. And 2003 is a long time ago. We have a lot more traffic now. And although trucks are not supposed to use this road, they do, because there's traffic from Metro, which is at the, close to Yonge. So this, of course, this is an improvement, but it's really not what is required to make this area safe. And the only thing that will make it safe will be making traffic stop along the way. So I'd also like to ask Ms. Machell The report, the statistics that we have from the report, my understanding from staff's email is that they're from 2018. The traffic warrants.
Eka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the traffic counts are from 2018. We didn't do any new traffic counts because they will not be accurate during the pandemic.
Right.
They will show less traffic that it's actually in the normal, what was pre-pandemic. So that's the reason we didn't do traffic counts since last year in March.
Counselor?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the May 1st, 2018, that's the date I have for the previous traffic data. That's not accurate.
No, that is the latest one that we consider more accurate than the one that would be obtained now during the pandemic with the pandemic traffic, that it was recognized to be at least 20 to 50% less that it's supposed to be.
Thank you. And I certainly agree with you. There's pedestrian counts here. How was that done? When was that done?
I'm sorry, I lost you a bit. If you could repeat.
I believe there are pedestrian counts as well.
For you, Mr. Mayor, both the traffic and the pedestrian counts are 2018.
Thank you. So thank you, Ms. Machell. So, you know, of course, doing this stop walk improvement will be an improvement, but I do think that we need to do traffic counts in the fall, let's say the fall of 2021, and pedestrian counts, because that's 3 years later, and certainly things will have changed. Did I read that this improvement would cost $250,000?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the IPS, the intersection pedestrian signal, what is called, because it would be a traffic signal activated by at request by a button. Yes, it will cost around $200,000 design and construction. And we look at the one that we implemented on John West Way, just north of the town hall, and that was the cost that.
Thank you.
The latest one that we implemented 5-6 years ago.
Thank you. So it's going to be a crosswalk and a signal that can be activated.
No.
I'm sorry. No. Okay. I'm not doing well tonight. Help me, please.
We have an alternative recommendation to the report. If council decides that we should implement a traffic signal, an IPS, is not warranted. The traffic counts and the pedestrian counts do not warrant a traffic signal. However, council can decide for us to implement the traffic signal. We can do this, but that will cost around more than $200,000.
Okay, I'm going to discuss this with the residents before council next week. But I think we have a responsibility to make this road as safe as possible. There are a lot of residents that live north and south of Henderson, thousands for sure. So I think that we need to have more current traffic and pedestrian counts. I don't think we can base our decision on having something from 3 years ago. So I'm just saying to council that may be something that I propose for the council meeting. But also it's just a pedestrian signal, even though it is enhanced, is not going to do what is required to have, in my opinion, appropriate safety for the residents who are using Henderson. Through you, thank you, Anka. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Clerk, could I make that motion? Could I make an amendment tonight about doing the updated traffic and pedestrian counts, no matter what is actually decided by council about this intersection?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess technically you could. I think, the mayor's call in terms of whether it's in order or not, I think it may be more appropriate for a motion on its own, where you could provide some whereases as to why it's necessary. Just my own opinion, having not really thought much about it. However, if the mayor decides that it's in order right now without that, that would be fine with me as well.
Thank you. I mean, Mr. Mayor and Council, it's obvious that a 3-year-old traffic and pedestrian count is just not, we just can't, we just need to have updated. This is a very important road, a very busy road. We need to have updated counts on this. So,
Councilor, I agree, but I'm going to tend to side on the caution with the clerk, and the reason for that is because even if we approved doing the counts, we would still have to make a decision on what we're doing with this. That would have to be separate. So I think that it would be more proper if it was a separate motion coming forward to say that we need to. I agree with you. We need to do them, but I just don't think it's proper to add it into this, because it's really not going to affect what we need to decide on this item here tonight.
thank you. I'm just comment that the earliest I could get a motion forward would be in September, unless we have an August meeting.
No, I agree, Councillor, but by the time they do the updated counts, we want to make sure that COVID has been come to an end, and we actually get true traffic counts. So it's going to be a while before we get the results of those traffic counts. That's my point to that, right? So whether you put it in September, it might not even get done until July, for all we know. So I think that we have time on that, but on this one, we need to do something immediately. And so that's why I would suggest that you, from a procedural standpoint, put in a motion separate from this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Is that all, Councillor?
I need to, does anyone else want to speak?
I don't see any other hands, but.
I really don't know what else I can say to council other than well, I think at the very least we need to do the crosswalk with the pedestrian activated signal. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions before I call the vote?
Well, excuse me, we're voting on just, what are we voting on?
On the overhead, on the recommendation that is in front of us, which is Mr. Clerk, do you want to put that on, please, the screen? There you go, Councilor. So that we retrough it and further enhance it with the overhead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have to vote against that.
I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council, next we move to 8.5, interim forecast update as of April 30th, 2021. Recommendation is that report number FIN 21-033 be received for information. Would someone like to move that? Councilor Kim, seconded by Councilor Thompson. Any comments or questions on this item? Councilor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you to Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. First, I just want to thank you for the report and keeping us up to date with where we stand fiscally, especially during this pandemic. On page 2, you made a statement here, future council decisions may also have an impact. Any operational budget shortfalls or surpluses remaining at the year end will require an offsetting adjustment to and from the rate stabilization reserve. I appreciate bringing this to our attention and keeping an eye on, what these impacts mean. And is there anything in specific that sticks out to you just in our situation now? Because you do say that the magnitude of impact of COVID continues to be unclear. Is there anything in specific that, we should keep our eyes and open for between now and the next update and looking forward?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I think it's still, we're looking forward to opening up as a province and being able to conduct more business and things returning to normal. But as we know with COVID, things are not always 100% certain. So it's a matter of how things open up and how we proceed with that reopening in alignment with the provincial guidelines. But if we decided that we needed to close down again, like things like that could have an impact overall. And that's why we do have the funding, the grant funding from the province. And we've set some of that aside to make sure that we're covered in case we do have any unforeseen expenditures related to the COVID-19 impact.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do like your table 3 that you provided. It was very important. You did make a statement there saying COVID-19 continues to have significant financial impact on the town operations. But I do see how that we've had some savings to offset some of those costs. So, we've been pretty smart about trying to allocate, funding from other places to make those savings. So I appreciate having that bird's eye view of, what's coming and what's going. But also, like you had said, we got to be really cognizant of, what operations is going to look like moving forward, because it could just completely go backwards come the fall again. We're really uncertain of that. I guess lastly, you had said that the town's facility and community functions, program functions, the financial performance of these functions will hinge on the timing of the province's relaxation of the present pandemic measures, which is what you had mentioned. So if we open up for a couple months and we find ourselves in this position again, will we get a report or expect a report in the fall to kind of help us prepare for what that might mean or look like?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do plan on having periodic reports come with the interim forecast. So as we provide those regular forecast updates, we'll have the latest assumptions for COVID in there. We should be having another one coming early in the fall and then another one towards the end of the year.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I understand, just a quick comment, because I know we have a lot of capital projects that are on the go, and sometimes these projects get deferred or move forward. Have we taken in consideration the rapid inflation that we are experiencing right now through construction material and just general inflation rates?
Margaret. Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so these budgeted amounts are based on what we approved last year. As we're going to market with our tenders, we're getting more up-to-date information, and the information that we have here provided on our variances to what our planned capital spend here is for this year is based on what the project managers have provided as information to us. I personally don't manage a lot of capital projects, so I'm sure if my colleagues have seen some inflation, they are managing them. And we're also finding on a repair and replacement, the new capital programs are helping manage some of those pressures within the repair and replacement areas.
Councillor?
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to, I guess this is Wainwright Council first. Just following up with regards to the capital spend, you indicated in the report that it's $30 million lower than what we had initially budgeted for. And I understand some of it may just be where the spending falls, whether it be this year or next year. But I guess with respect to COVID and the organizational impact, was much of that, I guess, underspending as a result of deferring projects just because with COVID, it just didn't make sense to proceed either from a resource perspective or a timing perspective?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there are two factors here. One is every capital project is unique and has its own circumstances. So that may be applicable to some projects where it may not be as applicable to others. The other piece is this is the first time we've really started to look at our cash flow relating to capital. So as we get more accustomed to doing this, and this is the first time the project managers have had to do this in a council report, we'll get better at estimating what our cash flow is on a year-to-year basis, as well as in our budget as we go forward. So it's a bit of a learning exercise over time, and it will get better as we get more experience in doing this.
I'm sure your fiscal strategy will cover it as we go forward. My second question, Mr. Mayor, is through you to Mr. Nadarozny. Mr. Nadarozny, while the report really speaks to the fiscal implications of the corporation, I'm wondering if you could just sort of comment. I mean, really, you know, we've had a unique workforce for well over a year now, working from home, some still operational and working in place. But, you know, in terms of, you know, I guess overall performance, are we getting the stuff done that we need to get done at an organizational level?
Mr. Smale?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would say that we absolutely are getting the normal work done that we would be expected to provide. I think one only needs to look at the last few council agendas. I've actually heard the idle rumbling of agendas being too big and too long and too many things on them. And we have been managing to keep up with the various things that have been going on in the community, as well as the changes from other governments and so on. So we've, I think we've done very well at keeping our productivity very, very high during this period.
Councilor?
Great, thank you. You know, I just think that it's an important piece to add. While the report speaks to, be it the losses or mitigations as a result of COVID, you know, a lot of stuff is impacted in terms of the performance of the town and getting the everyday jobs done. And I think it's a good piece to add, to be able to communicate to the residents that while it's no doubt challenging and there's been issues, you know, we've done our best to try and meet the service levels they've expected.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councilor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. Just a quick question I had forgot to ask. I had it highlighted on page, I don't know, 9 of 11 of your spreadsheet. The official plan review, original project forecast not taking consideration funding not spent in previous years. So I'm just, it was a 90% variance and, or 0.6 variance rather, 90.6. And I just wanted to kind of understand why or what led to that miscalculation. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to, I guess, Rachel.
Ms. Ray Van Kessel.
Kessel, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this project actually belongs to Mr. Waters. So I would like to ask him to respond.
Mr. Waters.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It could be the fact that we didn't get the project fully underway until 2020, and there may have been some delay in invoicing. So I would think that that could be a possible contributor to the variance.
Councilor?
Thank you. And so we should be pretty caught up. I mean, it was a big variance of 90.6%. So are we pretty caught up with what we feel that's going to be costing us? There shouldn't be any surprises.
That's correct. That's correct.
Councilor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, council, we are already dealt with 8.6. We'll move to 8.7, which is heritage permit application, Bruno 20 Spruce Street, lot 118, plan 246, file number HPA 2021-04. Recommendation is 1, that report number PDS 21-087 be received, and 2, that the heritage permit application HPA 2021-04 be approved to permit the construction of a single-story garage addition on the south side of the existing dwelling at 20 Spruce Street. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councilor Humphreys, Councilor Thompson, comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, 8.8, heritage permit application, Smale, 63 Catherine Avenue. Recommendation is 1, that report number PDS 21-088 be received, and 2, that the heritage permit application HPA 2021-02 be approved to permit the partial demolition of the rear portion of the existing dwelling at 63 Catherine Avenue. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Thompson. Comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8.9, heritage permit application, Wellington Street West and 11 Machell Avenue, Town of Aurora. Recommendation is 1, that report number PDS 21-090 be received. 2, that a new capital project with total budget authority of $200,000 be approved for the replacement of the existing retaining wall and staircase that fronts 28 Wellington Street West and 11 Machell Avenue to be funded from the Roads Repair and Replacement Reserve. And 3, that heritage permit application HPA 2021-07 be approved to rehabilitate the existing retaining wall that fronts Wellington Street West and 11 Machell Avenue using the existing natural stones, replace concrete staircase and handrails. Would someone like to move this recommendation? Councillor Humphries, Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Notices of motion. Oh, wait, we got regional. Do we not have the regional one added on there? Sorry, Mr. Clerk, I don't have the updated agenda in front of me. We have the regional report.
Through you, or to you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The regional report is on the agenda.
Thank you. So regional report. Someone like to move that to receive? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Seconder, Councillor Humphries, thank you. Any comments or questions on the regional report? Councillor Thompson? You're on mute, Councillor.
Thank you. As it states in the report, really on the first page, it talks about the York Region's ongoing response to COVID-19. And, I guess I'd like to express my appreciation for all the work that the region and everyone involved has been doing with regards to the vaccination efforts and clinics and so forth. I mean, obviously it's a huge team, and I certainly hope that you convey those messages from, I assume, my colleagues as well, and residents. There's a lot of people very supportive of all the efforts. You've certainly communicated the numbers for Aurora as well as the region, and there's been a great response. And I think it's due to the efforts of everybody. It's been a team effort, and I certainly think that I'd like to see that kind of recognition of their efforts expressed to all those involved in the region. So hopefully you'll carry that forward at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'll definitely do that. And just to note, yes, they've done a tremendous job as far as from a vaccine perspective. And also just to let everyone know, in case they haven't heard the news, Dr. Kurji is retiring. He'll be stepping down as of September. So he's done a tremendous job in getting us through this pandemic. He was going to retire before the pandemic hit, but then he was asked to stay on, and he's done a tremendous job leading York Region from a health perspective and safety. So I'll make sure I'll bring those well wishes and thanks to the whole team in York Region from this council. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the regional report? Councillor Gardner, do you have your hand up? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I do. Following on Councillor Thompson's report, I have a lot of trouble booking my second shot, not booking it, but moving it up. And I called the number that was listed under the center where I wanted to go, which was 820. And after the 26th call, I got a wonderful representative who did her best to help me and couldn't, and kept me on some sort of a waiting list. And I thought, what are the chances she's going to remember me? And she did. And I was able to get an earlier appointment. So I know there's been a lot of frustration with the booking system. And, I had it as well. But at the end of the day, I am pleased. And so you can pass that on. I don't know if that goes to the region or public health, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, and I will pass it along. I think part of the frustration leads to the fact that there is a provincial booking system and a regional system. And I think that's where some confusion lies. But I agree with you, the regional staff and the regional system, they've done a tremendous job in making sure that people get either called back, get responded back to, and try to help out as many people as possible, make sure that they get in to get their vaccines. And that's why we're leading the province from a regional perspective as far as how many people have been vaccinated. I think as of today, we're probably close to 55% of the adult population has been fully vaccinated, and that leads province. So, I mean, we've done a tremendous job as a region, and so I'll make sure I'll pass that along as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the regional report? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, that carries. New business. Councilor Gardner, new business?
Yes, thank you. First of all, Mr. Downey, is the boardwalk up and running? Sorry, is the St. Andrews boardwalk up and running?
Mr. Downey, he's going to relay some new news that we just got today, which I'm sure that no one's going to be happy to hear. So, Mr. Downey.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On that ominous note, no, the walkway is not opening, and we don't see it opening until the fall. We were having some issues with our contractor and a specification with regards to the guardrail at the corner of Yonge and St. John Side Road. They started installing the guardrail. However, it wasn't to specifications. And as you know, we partnered with the York Region on this. So we had some strict specifications, particular with car safety. And so they have had to go away and redo the guardrail, and will not have that available for at least 2 months.
Councilor.
Mr. Downey, that's disheartening news as we are in the summer season. I'm hoping the contractor's name is made note of. But anyway, I guess thanks for answering the question. Also, the question is, the comment is about absentee landlords, and how do we ensure that they take care of their property through that rental process? Ms. Van Leeuwen, sorry, I meant to be in touch with you earlier today about this. Is there anything you can add at this point?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So you're talking about dwelling units that are rented. So they're occupied, but they're not being upheld in terms of our property standards?
Well, the most frequent comment, thank you, Mr. Mayor, sorry. The most frequent comment I get is about garbage.
I'm sorry, about
I think when renters move out, the amount of garbage that's left there.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a Clean Communities bylaw, so we have the authority to issue notices of violations, and the property owner is responsible. And if they don't respond, we have the authority to also go in and remediate and charge back to property taxes.
Thank you. Thank you, because a lot of neighborhoods that really are seeing that homes are being bought up in their neighborhood that were single family homes and are now being rented out. I think that they would be fine with you know, if the property was upkept. And so I'm wondering, could this something that a landlord put in a lease when they rent?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't have oversight of the leasing
Yeah,
agreement.
I know.
We do not. So that is not something that we have authority to manage.
And we can't suggest it. Okay. Well, maybe when we send the notice, it might be in there somewhere. Okay, I think that's all for now. If I have streets that seem to be having significant problems and upset neighbors. Is that something, could bylaw, drive by these streets and check them?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
What can bylaw do to help, Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we have a case file or a complaint registered, we will monitor those properties and undertake to do an inspection and investigate and take appropriate action. As I stated earlier, our property standards applies to all properties.
Right.
So we have the authority, if the occupant allows us entry into the building, we have authority to ensure that inside the building they're also maintained. But we need the occupants. We need them to agree.
Thank you. I'm more concerned about the outside. And is the counselor able to make a complaint on behalf of a resident?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we open case files for counselors.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll pass it on. Thanks.
Is that all, Councillor?
That is, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, new business? Councillor Gallo? Oh, I think he's frozen. Oh, no, there you are. Councillor Gallo, can you hear me now? Councillor Gallo, any new business? No? Okay, thank you. Councillor Humphreys, new business? Councillor Kim, new business? Councillor Gilliland, new business?
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Downey. Does the town have any more burlap left at all? I know it's late, but it's still, you can still collect these caterpillars, and some people have not been able to find any supplies, and I don't know if we have been able to get our hands on any more or not.
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, we don't have any more. We handed out 2,500 pieces, and a lot of people then cut those into smaller pieces. I can tell you that the caterpillars have now started to pupate, and I was at the cottage, and the moths have already started to come out. So the burlap has done its job. I believe that caterpillars are in the decline at this point, and we are now going to start seeing the pupate and the moths.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I just kind of wanted to point out to everybody that, if you have a burlap, it is recommended May to August. And yes, I have seen the pupae stage, but not to give up on collecting them. Personally, myself, I'm out there collecting every single day, and they're there, babies, and don't give up. And if you don't collect them, you're really just providing shade for the caterpillars. It's not going to stop them from eating, and I think that's the disconnect. So I just wanted to ensure that everybody kind of knew that the burlap wasn't stopping them, but rather providing shade, so it's an easy place to collect. Through you to Mr. Downey, as far as like the next stage, because you said pupae and it turns into a moth, and I understand like the next kind of best way to capture or reduce the production of the male and the female mating is pheromone traps. And is this something that, we will provide some educational piece maybe online on our website? Because I don't see anything here about at least trying to mitigate that next stage to reduce the population next year.
Mr. Downey?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's something we can check in with the region. We try to do this on a regional approach. So we partner with the region, and the region assists us as well as the 9 municipalities in getting the message out. So I will forward that on to Sarah, and then ultimately to the region, and see what information we can't get out to the citizens of Aurora.
Councillor?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, new business?
Yes, thank you. Through you to Mr. Nadarosny. Mr. Nadarosny, just wanted to get a quick update on where things stand with the service review update, and I guess when we may see a report come to council.
Smale?
Mr. Mayor, the service review is well underway. We have meetings with consultants every 2 weeks as a project team. They are on track, and we anticipate a report back to council late September, early October.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public service announcements. I'll go the other way. Councillor Thompson. No. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to follow up with Councillor Gretner was saying about the vaccine appointments. Not to forget that your local pharmacies definitely will be, you can put yourself on a waiting list. I know I've done it. I actually had one call me out of the blue and said, hey, you can get an appointment on Sunday. Do you want it yet? So I just put myself on various lists, and one way or another, you'll get your appointment. And also the Vaccine Hunters Canada on Twitter, we're there to help you out to try and book something as well. And just a reminder about pink cars for seniors. If you do need help, they're there to help you for transportation and also to help you book your appointment. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, public service announcement? No. Councillor Humphreys? No. Councillor Gallo? No. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we did miss, our meeting was running late. We did miss this portion last council meeting. So we had a lot of things in June that we didn't get a chance to say. So I'm just going to say them. We had National Indigenous Peoples Day. We had Indigenous History Month. We had Men's Mental Health Month. Pride Month. Usually we do quite a lot for Pride, but that kind of, was low key this year. I'd also like to thank Shelley Ware and her team for the Canada Day celebration. She's so inventive. What can I tell you? Also, we have cooling centers. We have a cooling center at the Aurora Community Center. So I'm not sure. And actually, it's open 7 days a week. I think from 10 in the morning till 5 in the evening. So I want to thank the town for that. That's really quite an asset to have. And also the splash pads are open. I didn't realize we had so many. So imagine those are online, Mr. Mayor.
They are. The splash pads are open 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. at all our locations. And residents can get information at aurora.ca splash pads.
Thank you. And I think there are 5 or 6 of them. And I also miss, Mr. Mayor, the International Day of Yoga. And, in the past, we could have scoffed at this, but yoga and meditation has proved to be a big help for some people during the pandemic. And actually has come quite into the mainstream, yoga and meditation. So I think it's worth mentioning. Thank you. That's it.
I just have a couple, but I'll just add to that. Hopefully the province will move us into step 3 so we can do yoga indoors as well. That would be
But
good.
not too fast, Mr. Mayor.
No, we're always going to be cautious, but we want to make sure that we do it in a cautious approach. But we do need to be moving forward with the way the numbers are showing up. They're actually in a very good spot. But I'll just a few to add. Town of Aurora is excited to launch another summer of play in the park. It's offered until September 3rd. These play-based workshops are designed to provide the benefits of recreation in a safe outdoor environment for children between the ages of 6 to 12 years. For more information, residents can visit aurora.ca/play in the park. Check out what's playing and register today for Aurora's movies in the park. And they're actually, you can check out all the movies in the park. Obviously, we're having a couple of drive-in movies. We had one this past weekend. It was actually packed. It was a great event. And we want to thank Desjardins for hosting it in their parking lot. It's just a great venue. It allows for more room, for more cars to show up. So if anyone wants to check that out, they can go to aurora.ca/movies in the park. Spaces are limited, and so they do need to register. And everyone needs to mark their calendars because starting tomorrow, our summer tradition in Aurora continues with concerts in the park. They happen every Wednesday. For more information and to register, because spaces are limited as well due to the provincial orders, everyone can visit aurora.ca/special events. And then I also just wanted to, last one, bring up, if everyone isn't aware yet, we are having a second dose pop-up clinic in the town of Aurora at the Aurora Community Center on July 10th, 11th, and 12th. And they'll be running from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. They did give us a limited number of appointments. I think they're basically fully booked right now. They got fully booked right away. The province has just announced, and I'm glad to announce right here, right now, that they've added an additional 200 vaccination appointments to each day. And residents will be able to book starting Wednesday, July 7th, so tomorrow at 8 a.m. Those 200 extra appointments per day. So it's great news. It seems like they should be adding a lot more appointments to the town of Aurora. It seems like we fill them up right away. And then I just did want to add that everyone is doing a great job as far as, moving forward, as far as from vaccinations. We've had many days in a row where we've had 0 new cases. We've had 1 active case for a very long time. So everyone is doing a great job in making sure that we remain safe. We are taking a cautious approach, but I think that even if moving to step 3, and I know I've said it many times, that is still a cautious approach because there are restrictions. But I know that from meeting with the GTHA mayors, all the mayors are now speaking to the province about getting some clear guidelines for step 3. Step 3 doesn't speak to any clear guidelines right now. It just says that there's capacity limits. It's very general and very vague. And so we're asking that the province come out with some clear guidelines so our businesses and anyone that's looking at putting an event on, they can have a full understanding of how and what they can do as we move into step 3, because even if we follow the timeline right now, step 3 will fall into, I believe, July 20th it is, we'd be moving into it. And so we want to give everyone a reasonable amount of time to understand those guidelines. So hopefully the province will make the necessary adjustments and provide those guidelines for us, hopefully by the end of the week. With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Ken. All those in favor?